The other day, I was on one of our regular walks with my wife. We walk about 10,000 steps a day, mostly around our neighborhood. Walking is where I think. It's where I process ideas. It's where most of these episodes actually begin. And somewhere in the middle of that walk, I said to her, "You know what no one really tells you about early retirement? It's how lonely it can feel." I didn't mean sadness. I wasn't depressed. I love being retired. It's one of the best decisions we've ever made, but what I was trying to describe was something more specific. It's social displacement. When you retire early, especially in your late 40s or early 50s, you're not in the same rhythm as the people your age anymore. Most of your peers are still working. Their weeks are structured, their schedules are dictated by employers. Their free time is compressed into evenings and weekends. Meanwhile, your time is flexible. It's your own. You can cook, you can clean, you can run errands, exercise, or travel wherever and whenever you want. And that freedom is incredible, but it's also isolating in subtle ways. On a random Tuesday morning, when we go to Costco at 10 a.m. and the store is half empty, it feels like heaven. But it also reminds you that everyone else your age is somewhere else. They're in meetings, they're in traffic, they're on Zoom calls, and you're in a different stream of time. The same thing happens with travel. On our recent trip to Antarctica, which is a bucket list experience for most people on board, we noticed quickly that we were among the youngest in our cohort. We met one other couple, roughly our age, but they were there for a work conference. Most of the passengers were 10 to 20 years older. It didn't bother us. In fact, physically, we felt great. Because we walk a lot, we walked the ship's track really fast. And on one occasion, one excursion to the penguin colony at Punta Tumbo, a bus delay meant we were only given 45 minutes instead of the usual 90. But because we were able to move quickly, we saw the entire colony while many others couldn't. In that sense, being younger was an advantage. But socially, it reinforces something. You're ahead of your age cohort. Your time is free alongside people who are in a different life stage. And that's the displacement. It's not regret, it's not doubt, it's simply recognizing that your rhythm shifted before everyone else's did. Another piece of this that surprised me was the social structure of work. When I left my corporate role, I expected the work to end. I didn't fully anticipate how much of my daily social interaction would end with it. Almost every day, my conversations had revolved around meetings and project discussions and shared wins, working lunches, and team celebrations. And there were birthdays, there were inside jokes, and there were moments of camaraderie that felt real. And they were real, but they were also contextual. When you step away from work, that daily ecosystem disappears almost overnight. The Slack channels go quiet, the lunch invites stop, and the reoccurring meetings vanish. And you realize that while many of those relationships were genuine, they were built around shared objectives more than shared life. And some friendships lasted. The ones where we had intentionally built connection outside of work, maybe over drinks after happy hour or through families getting together, those continued, but others quietly faded. And that was revealing. It was both disappointing and clarifying. While you're inside the machine, it can feel like people around you are your primary community. In some ways they are, but once you remove the shared mission, you see which relationships were rooted in something deeper and which were simply aligned around the job. That realization can feel lonely at first. And then there's the practical reality of planning life. When you try to schedule lunch, golf, or a trip with people who are still working full time, it rarely works seamlessly. You're constantly navigating their limited windows of availability. You're flexible, but they're constrained. And over time, you stop asking as often because you don't want to create friction. Again, it's not sadness, it's simply operating in a different time economy. Emotionally, accepting that you are somewhat ahead of your cohort takes strength and confidence. It takes gratitude, too. You have to be secure enough in your decision not to question it just because you're walking a slightly different path. I've never wondered if I stepped away too early, though. If anything, I sometimes wish I had positioned myself to do it sooner. But there is an adjustment period. If you feel socially out of sync after retiring early, it doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. It doesn't mean you're less likable. It doesn't mean something's broken. It just means your rhythm shifted before everyone else's did. The long view is this: community rebuilds, but it doesn't rebuild automatically. You have to participate in it. You have to look for like-minded people, and you have to be willing to form relationships across different ages and stages in life. In fact, that flexibility is healthy. Some of our most interesting conversations now happen with people 10 or 15 years older because they share our availability and often our perspective. At the same time, I've learned not to romanticize work community. It served its purpose. It was meaningful for that season, but it was one container among many. Early retirement doesn't remove community. It removes a specific kind of community and forces you to build another one more intentionally. And that intentionality might be the real gift. So if you find yourself walking through this, feeling slightly displaced on a random Tuesday morning while everyone else is heading to the office, just know that you're not alone in that experience. You're simply operating on a different timeline. Over time, your people find you. But you do have to show up for that process. If this connects with you, consider subscribing or sharing your perspective in the comments. I'm always interested in how others are processing these ideas. As always, thank you for tuning in to John Dawson Retirement.